Hi there, it's Darren Howard. It is the 20th of September, 2014, and we're at the March for Food Freedom. We've got a number of speakers coming up, and we're going to cover the march. We're so stoked that so many people showed up. It's kind of our first time out not under the national umbrella. And with 75 people showing up, it was definitely worthwhile. Check it out.
Tirso Gonzales is a PhD. He completed his doctorate in rural sociology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. His work as a scholar, international consultant, and activist has allowed him to work closely with indigenous people in the Americas, and he's an assistant professor of Indigenous Studies at the University of British Columbia, Okanagan. His scholarly work includes Indigenous strategic vision, Indigenous biodiversity conservation, ecosystem management, food security, and climate change. So please welcome Tirso Gonzales.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here. I think that enough information has been provided in terms of quantitative data. I think that what we need is also qualitative data and what kind of approach we can use in this dialogue that is the open dialogue, is a democratic dialogue. And what I would like to say is I would like to start with a concept that is colonization. But I'm not going to be boring you in terms of the dense definition. I'm just going to use something that is more pragmatic. And colonization, according to certain community-based leaders, is the digestion of one culture by another. So in this case, what is going on is that there is a corporate culture that is trying to digest non-corporate, democratic, place-based diversity in all the possible ways, biodiversity, cultural diversity, the diversity of languages, of foods, of places, and so on. So in that context, what I would like to invite you to think is about some few questions. You are what you eat. You are what you read. You are what you watch. You are what you do in terms of research or other activities. So these days we have a sort of overwhelming control in terms of media by corporate means. We have corporate agriculture, we have corporate education, we have corporate ways of teaching and so on. But that is one way. There are other alternative ways, and they are coming from within the community as well as from other places like the university, and that is related. Those are the other ways of approaching all of these alternatives of ways of knowing, ways of being related to our places, ways of eating, ways of cooking and so on, is related to this rich diversity of place-based, local. It doesn't matter if they are indigenous or non-indigenous. We are reclaiming our possibility of bringing democracy back where it belongs, which is our communities, our places. We are the ones who make the decision. And there is a sort of caricature that is very expressive in terms of this piece of wood that is close to a cliff, and the people is basically supporting a guy that is at the end of the piece of wood and close to the cliff. So we have to realize that we have the power of thinking, the power of remembering who we are, remembering our connections, because in one way or another we have been taught that we are disconnected, we are not part of nature. And corporate agriculture and corporate science and corporate scientists, which happily are not the majority, but they are the most influential in society, are the ones who are trying to make us think that it is okay to be disconnected from society, from nature, from our food, from our places, and behave in a very, very disconnected way. So in that regard, fundamentally, we have to come back to this issue of becoming natives to our places. That doesn't mean, as I mentioned at some point in the past, become a wannabe Indian. What we want is to, be reconnecting, and be reconnected with our places, know what is growing around, the healthy ways of, the spiritual ways. And one of the things that, in corporate science, is not allowed is, this connection with spirituality. Because it's through spirituality that, basically we reconnect with, the living, visible and non-visible, world. with our ancestors, with the ancestral teachings and so on. So basically, in that situation, I think that we are clear that corporate science as well as corporate media, corporate agriculture, it is not the way to reconnect. What we want is healthy ways of exercising politics, democracy. We have to work towards this issue of regaining strength in order to produce our food on a basically respectful way. So we have to come back to respect. We have to come back to reciprocity. We have to come back to the ways that we used to do things. When the colonizer arrived with its colonial mentality, it brought a series of challenges that now we are facing through all of these global environmental, ecological, moral, economic, and also corporate way of doing science and so on. So my invitation to all of you is to basically to see Monsanto as the tip of the iceberg in a process of decolonization that is not just about a few corporations, because business can do good business in an environmental sound way, in an ecologically sound way, in respect with Mother Earth. And in that regard, I think that all of us who are here are in a process of awakening and reconnecting, spiritually speaking, as well as with our environments, our local places, and in that way we are becoming natives of this place. Because when we become natives, we are in the process of every time more respecting and producing, and providing for reciprocity and nurturance. We have to use a whole different language than the one, that has been used for most of, the development era that has happened, during the last 60 years. That development era is coming to an end. And with that, the language, the concepts, the paradigms, and the ways of approaching life as a whole, whatever is, the most important activity, be that education, be that agriculture, be that, the way of, transporting things, the use of energy, every possible fundamental aspect related to our possibilities and for the future generations, we have to move out of the homocentric, anthropocentric way of connecting, because that is what is stopping us from reconnecting and remembering who we really are. So those are, my words, my message, and I appreciate, the possibility of being here and sharing those thoughts with you. Thank you very much.
So make sure you're there. Make sure you're informed about what food sovereignty is. There's a really big issue of huge grocery prices, amazing skyrocketing prices around meat, vegetables, absolutely everything that you eat. And of course the GMO problem mixed into everything. It's about food sovereignty. It's an excellent day to get out in the streets. Tomorrow we're going to be covering March for the Environment as the entire world starts waking up in a big way.